Hey guys, I'm Voylin and welcome to my Road to In1 series. This is the second episode and my first episode is from half a year ago. In the first episode I said that I will try to get the GLPT In1 by the end of 2022. This year. Well, I have been procrastinating a lot ever since I made that first video, sadly enough. My studying each day has been very minimal and I've been doing other things instead, like becoming a father and working on an app to make studying Japanese easier. Before I give my tips on how I stopped procrastinating, I should probably explain how I began procrastinating in the first place. I'll try to keep this very long story as short as possible. Story time! I started studying Japanese in 2016 and I studied multiple hours every single day, with some days counting up to like 10 hours, 11 hours in a day. Now fast forward to 2020, the year that I moved to Japan. At that time I honestly was kind of burnt out from studying because I had been going on overdrive for a couple of years. And my motivation to keep studying Japanese became very low and I only did the bare minimum of studying since then. So I moved to Japan and since then I've basically been studying only for like 10 minutes a day, just reviewing things. Because I could talk to people in Japanese and I could read most things. Doesn't mean I can have like conversations, like at that time I couldn't have conversations to like people in a hospital and such. Now it's getting more possible. Like I studied to bare minimum but my Japanese kept improving because of living here and talking with Japanese people. But as long as you're not studying actively, it won't go up by a lot. You'll get more fluent, but only more fluent in the things that you know. So basically just reviewing, you don't really learn that many new things. But at the time, I could talk, I could read, that was enough for me. But job opportunities here in Japan are limited by the fact that my Japanese isn't perfect yet. And because I don't have a GLPT certificate, that's, as a foreigner, that's needed here in Japan. So I made my goal half a year ago to get one. And why not directly aim for the highest levels? So the goal seems more challenging. But when starting to use Anki, memorize lingo there, human Japanese and so on again, I felt that those apps could be more efficient. Since I started studying Japanese, I've always had that feeling that apps for studying Japanese are just not very efficient. There's always like some things not right about them which makes them less efficient. And ever since I started studying Japanese, I've been writing down like the downsides of certain applications that I like using to know like how could this experience be better? How could they become more efficient? So I thought, why not give it a shot and make my own app? I spent 6 months on it with a lot of restarting and I came to the conclusion my programming skills are lacking. But also my Japanese knowledge was kind of getting in the way because I just don't know enough yet to make that kind of an application. I wasted 6 months to try to make studying Japanese more efficient and faster, whilst in fact I should have just kept studying Japanese, go directly to my goal instead of trying to make shortcuts on a road that's basically already quite straight. Now with the baby I have another excuse on why not to study Japanese as hard. Excuse like, oh well, I didn't really sleep very well because he kept me up all night. So I don't have the energy now to keep studying Japanese, so let's just put it on a break. Let's do it tomorrow, let's do it tomorrow. That's like my most common phrase recently. Let's do it tomorrow. But that brings us to the main question. What is procrastinating? Procrastinating is basically lying to yourself by making excuses. You make those excuses to make you feel less bad for not doing the things that you should do. Yeah, you make it feel like it's out of your control, whilst in fact you made a decision to watch that movie. You made a decision to play that game or go out and so on. You make those decisions. It's not out of your control, but you like making excuses so you don't feel bad afterwards, whilst in fact you still feel bad afterwards, like from, oh, I should have studied for the test more. Those kind of things. There's always a possibility that you really don't have time, but there are quite a lot of hours in a day. And even though I became a father of a baby who keeps making noises the whole time and crying every now and then, like recently he discovered crying. The first month and a half, crying was almost nothing. Now it's like, yeah, I found this new thing that I can do with my voice. I can make sounds whole nights long. That's basically what's going on in his head right now. So even with a baby like that who requires a lot of attention, I still manage to study for a minimum of 2 hours every single day. A day has quite a lot of hours. So let's start with my tips to stop procrastinating and start studying Japanese, or to do anything else that you want to achieve, like just stop procrastinating in general. So tip number 1, stop lying and making excuses to yourself. Tip number 2, gaining new skills or knowledges like Japanese aren't easy, as everybody will speak 60 languages and talent shows will become quite boring. Because if you can learn anything very easily, let's become a pro juggler in an hour or two. Like, oh, tomorrow I have like 1 hour, what would I do? Let's make the Mona Lisa. If you expect it to be easy and fast, well, think again, because if you really think that's how it should be, quick and easy, then you better give up instead of continuing. Number 3, have a pattern in your life which dictates at what times you improve the skills that you want to improve, like Japanese. For me, when I wake up, the first thing I do is study a little bit of my phone before getting out of bed, eat breakfast whilst preparing a coffee, and after my breakfast I will sit down, study some Japanese with a nice warm coffee. For the people who say that they don't have time in the morning, go to bed earlier and try to wake up at like 5 or 6, like me. Then you'll probably have time enough. Number 4, have a study location. A location without too much clutter around, where you have a notebook and a pen. Just a place that's like always ready without too many distractions around you. The moment that you sit down, you can study, stay focused. Because procrastinating is basically just procrastinating to begin with something. Because the moment that you probably start studying, you probably go for like a decent amount of time. But it's the starting that's difficult. So having a place that makes starting easier will help you to get over your procrastinating problem. Number 5, get self-discipline. People think this one is hard to get, whilst it's just a matter of following tip number 1. Stop lying and making excuses to yourself. Number 6, remove not needed apps from your phone that just waste your time. My phone has been very bare bone for the past couple of years. I use my phone for studying my donkey and for watching videos whilst I sit in the bath. And that's basically all I use my phone for. Those are the main uses for my phone, and sometimes I will look up things. A phone should only be for that and for calling. Also for calling. Number 7, also a difficult one. Recognize when you are procrastinating. Try to self-evaluate yourself and doing things if those things are really necessary to do right now. If not, go back to working on the goals you want to achieve, like studying Japanese or becoming an artist or anything. Now, to realize this from yourself that you're procrastinating, it's kind of a difficult one, but basically it relates to tip number 5. Having self-discipline. Number 8. Try to think, why am I procrastinating? For me, I started making an app because I felt like there was just not the right tool out there for me. So I thought, let's invest a little bit of time to create something that I can study more efficiently with, but it ended up costing 6 months and I didn't achieve anything. Although it may be useful to make some of the tools yourself, it may be better to just take maximum 1 hour to look for some tools or to make tools yourself, but only maximum 1 hour. And just use the things you already have, because the more time you invest in making or finding tools is time gone which you could have invested or been using to study Japanese instead, by example. Just remember, learning a new skill or language requires time, and it's basically 10% learning and 140% reviewing. So if you feel like applications or the way that you study isn't really teaching you new things anymore, just keep going at it. Reviewing is like one of the most important things when learning something. Number 9. Don't make a to-do list or something similar. It just consumes time and you'll probably never look at it again after making it, unless you are tackling a big diverse project like making a game, by example. Like for a game you need a lot of different kind of mechanics, a lot of different skills. It's quite complex. So you kind of need a to-do list to work efficiently. But for studying Japanese, like, okay, Japanese is very difficult and the language may be very complicated. However, learning Japanese, the language is kind of straightforward to learn. Like with any language is kind of straightforward to learn. You have some vocab, you have some grammar rules, put them together and maybe a different writing system, and that's it. Those are the only things that you need to do for learning a language. Just keep learning bit by bit and you'll increase your knowledge bit by bit, and just keep reviewing so the pile underneath of the new words won't disappear. And for people who really want to make a to-do list while studying Japanese, start making a to-do list. Tomorrow I'll learn the hiragana a, and the next day I will learn the hiragana i. So it's making a to-do list for studying Japanese is just another way of procrastinating. Don't lie to yourself. And to wrap it up, a piece of advice for everybody procrastinating while studying Japanese: try not to. And if you do, at least try to make the procrastinating related in a way to Japanese. For example, put your phone in Japanese if you use your phone a lot. Play games in Japanese. Watch Japanese movies or something, anything. Learn, read Japanese books, learn about the culture to keep your motivation up if you're tired of studying the language for a bit. Procrastinating can also just be a sign of a lack in motivation. So find out where your motivation went. What reason made you start learning Japanese in the first place? Like, try to find your motivation again to re-spark the fire which you first had. It will never be as strong as it used to be. Like, my passion for studying Japanese was a lot higher in the beginning compared to now, because now I feel like it's not that needed anymore to study a lot, but I still have my goal to achieve. Like, in the beginning everything is new and everybody likes new things. If it's a new baby, a new PC, a new light that you bought recently. It's all nice and well in the beginning, but you get bored of it eventually. Not about the baby. Not about the baby. I'm not talking about a baby now. New baby stays interesting. And then a secret tip for the people who keep watching this video. Tip 11. This is kind of a hidden tip because it's not really good advice. But there's this thing called the sunk cost fallacy. If you really feel like you want to give up on something like studying Japanese and the above tips don't really work for you, please look this up. The sunk cost fallacy. I think I pronounced that correctly. It's basically saying like, you don't want to give up right now because you invested that much time already, but will keep investing time actually be worth it to you or not? It's basically like, know when to cut your losses. Like, okay, I've invested this much time in Japanese, but I really don't want to keep going with this anymore. Just cut your losses instead of forcing yourself to keep studying, because like, especially with the language, if you stop studying, it's just disappearing slowly, and it will have been for nothing anyway. So if you feel like quitting halfway, just cut your losses. I've procrastinated for way too long now, but recently I've been going hard at it again with clocking in a minimum of 2 hours a day, and that's even whilst I have a very active, attention-loving baby. It was not easy to start again and to get my self-discipline up to point again, and just to keep at it again every single day and just decide like, okay, now let's start doing this again instead of watching a series. Especially after eating lunch, we will sit in the sofa, watch a movie, and after that it's so comfortable to just keep laying down. But I'm going at it, it's working, I have my self-discipline somewhat again, and like, one of the reasons why I keep going at it again and again and again is also because I like to say that I have self-discipline. So I have two goals. I want to be able to say for myself, I have self-discipline, but also I want to be able to get JLPT in 1. So my plans for now is start focusing more on studying Japanese and keep my hobbies and side adventures on a minimum until I achieve this goal of reaching JLPT in 1. A goal which I've been trying to reach ever since I started studying Japanese, and that I still haven't achieved in 6 years now. Yeah, I'm close to that goal and I'm not going to give up because it's something I really want in my life. And also need in my life if I ever want to become something else than an English teacher in Japan. So for everybody, I hope you can all stop procrastinating. And if you're procrastinating right now, well, you're probably procrastinating because you're watching this video. So yeah, stop watching this video, subscribe, and I'll see you all later. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.